Hi, everybody. My name is Liz Marie Reyes, and I am going to be discussing Chapter 5, which is Perceiving Objects and Scenes. And this was very important to me because I found it very interesting how certain things can bring us a level of awareness. So, for instance, we do understand the distinction between two objects, or when it is just one object and the shadow, as we think. However, this small distinction is not always correct in humans, and it's probably one of the hardest things to be able to replicate in a robot because such distinction actually, in my opinion, comes with a certain level of common sense. Now, I have this example with the cats. Now, for instance, take this cat into consideration. You have the yellow cat, and then you have a shadow of the yellow cat. Or is it really a shadow? It may just be a yellow cat and a black cat right next to it. Now, how can we tell that? We can tell because the black cat has green eyes and shadows don't have green eyes. When it comes to telling this distinction, a robot might have a hard time of in telling this distinction because it may not see the eyes at first or something like that. Erroneous perception, it is very interesting to me because depending on the angle that you're looking at an object, it may look completely different when you're looking at it straight ahead or when you go towards the side and look at it. So in the book was using environmental rock sculpture as an example because at first glance, from a certain angle, it looked like the sculpture of the rocks was just one big circle. However, when we looked at the same sculpture from a different angle, clearly it was two sets of rocks that were not even touching each other, and they were not in a perfect circle. Now, with these dogs, what we're seeing is that in the first picture right here, you cannot tell when the dog's head is, like where does it end or where does it start. However, if you look at it on the second picture, we can clearly tell that the two dogs, there is one dog on top of the other, which is not clear at first. The next thing that I wanted to discuss was ambiguity, which is the image on the retina that can be creating different amounts of objects. As we stare at this pattern, which is actually a reversible pattern, as we're staring at it, we can see at first that it is simply horizontal and vertical black and white lines. However, when you actually stare at it, you're going to see that there are some circles that are starting to form without you really expecting those circles there, because robots do not have a retina that is able to create such ambiguity, such pattern. That's probably next to impossible to recreate at the moment, although I'm positive we're still trying. Now, this is another example of the reversible pattern. When you stare at this one, the black and the yellow, I'm sorry, the blue and white pattern, we can clearly tell that at some point there are some circles in this area that are starting to form. Perceptual segregation is the way that you can tell one object away from the rest of its environment. Okay, so here we have a heart, and in the middle we have two people. So you can tell that the woman is here and her hair, and there is a man here that seems to be kissing her. This is supposed to be her leg, and in general, this is just a heart. But when you look at it, it just has more objects inside the heart. This is another example of perceptual segregation, in which we see numerous animals in one. So we see a rabbit, we see the bear, the deer, a squirrel, a dog. You have different things that are actually showing up there. The last one that I wanted to discuss was the fusiform area, which is the FFA. So the right FFA responds to real faces, and the left fusiform area responds to anything that may be recognizable as a face. So for instance, Matt Milk, I'm sorry I dropped you. Stop giving me that look, because all we do is look at people, and it's the most thing that we would see is faces. Anywhere where we would look is easy to see a face. Now that is the milk, and now we have Nacho Friend, just nachos. So in the nachos, you can tell that it's also obviously a dog, but at first look, at first glance, you may not see that right away. Well, guys, thank you so much for your time, and that is all I have for chapter 5.